Hello, my name is Ed Shalom. I'd like to introduce you to a new patented design for a garage door opener that I am calling the Overdoor Opener. Referring to the left, the old style of rail type garage door openers, as shown here, are hung from the ceiling using screws into ceiling joists typically. And as such, this style of garage door opener can fail and actually damage property or cause injuries or even death. On the right-hand side, the overdoor opener is shown here, right over the garage door opening, and it's mounted to a bracket on the wall using two removable pins. As such, the overdoor opener is much safer to install and much less likely to fail or fall during earthquakes and windstorms. Rail-type garage door openers have been in the marketplace for many years. This patent from 1926 depicts a motor suspended from the garage ceiling, and if you look towards the bottom, this old vehicle here doesn't look like modern day cars, but the rail type garage door opener architecture is essentially the same and has been the same for almost 1 century. This slide demonstrates the classic manner in which a rail-type garage door opener is mounted. As you can see, I refer to this mount, which is suspended from the ceiling with angle iron and whatnot, as an Achilles heel because of its vulnerability. And again, typically, this kind of mount is supported by vertical screws that hold this bracket here to the joists in a finished ceiling, which can be only 1.5 inches wide and very difficult to identify. I've installed several garage door openers from the ceiling in my garage, and I guess you can see I'm not very fond of this task. It's actually quite dangerous and difficult to do. In fact, these slides show professionals who are doing it by themselves, which is really inadvisable. You typically should have an assistant helping you. So this gentleman on the left is making a measurement to make sure he installs this box the right height from the ceiling. And over here on the right, we have an instance where the drive box is really at some distance from the ceiling, and again, the installer has his hands full in trying to install this safely. By contrast, the overdoor opener, as mentioned previously, mounts to the wall over the garage door opening, and after a bracket has been attached to this wall, only two removable pins are used to secure the drive box to the wall. You'll note in this architecture over here on the right, there's an LED light or some light source at the end of the rail. This is to accommodate the fact that the lighting traditionally provided by the drive box is not very useful when the door is open. So we've remedied that by adding a light at this end, and I propose it be articulated so you can actually point the light to whatever portion of the garage you need to have illuminated. I mentioned I have installed the old style garage door openers in my garage, and used my garage to prototype the overdoor opener. In this case, this is one of the 3 adapted units that are presently operating in my garage. Starting over here, you can see the wall over the garage door opening where the drive box is mounted. And then at this end, you'll note that there's a very simple mount to hold the free end of the garage door opener, and that I provided, for purposes of illustration, a light source that can light up the garage effectively. Looking at the drive box for this prototype, it's actually has a supporting bracket here because of the adaptation to make it more secure. This would not be necessary if the chassis were designed to accommodate the pivotable mount over the door. This garage door opener is working effectively, and all the safety functions work in the normal manner. To show the sequence of installing the overdoor opener, again, there's just a simple bracket, kind of a C-shaped piece of metal with holes at each end, and this depicts how the drive box, which is attached to the rail over here, drive box and rail, is attached to the bracket with two removable pins. And it's quite a contrast to those installers standing up on those ladders. Once the drive box has been mounted to the wall, the rail that was previously resting on the floor can be elevated using a ladder to support it. And note that, of course, at this point, we only have this mass of the rail being supported on the ladder rather than a heavy drive box. Using a simple T-structure or equivalent arrangement that is attached to the ceiling at the high end, we then just use a single pin to mount the free end of the rail to this T-structure. I call this the RRR bonus, in that using only 3 removable pins, 2 at the drive box end, 1 at the free end, the garage door opener can now easily be removed, repaired, and reinstalled. This slide depicts the specific issues with regard to mounting a garage door drive box from the ceiling. For finished ceilings, the drive box must be suspended from ceiling joists that are not visible, and these are typically about 1.5 inches wide. So in order to suspend a drive box from a finished ceiling, one must try to figure out where in fact the joists are, and this is a very imprecise process. And one can then insert the screws off center into the joists. This will look secure, but deceptively so. Vibration during usage can loosen the screws, and then perhaps during an earthquake or a windstorm, these screws can fail and the drive box can then come down into the garage, and it can damage property or can injure anyone who is unlucky enough to be in the garage at that time. Many of us in the United States don't really think about earthquakes other than perhaps in California. As you can see from this slide of global earthquake risks, there's what's called a ring of fire, and it goes along some of the major population centers, not just in the United States, for example, but certainly in Asia, Japan, and China, and so on. This slide just goes into detail on risks from earthquakes globally as well as by nation. Note that perhaps 400 million people in the globe are considered at risk from earthquakes. In the United States, it isn't just California, but in fact 75 million Americans in 39 states may be at risk. The data for India, China, and Japan is really scary. We're talking about maybe 200 million city dwellers in India that are at risk. In China, there have been some devastating earthquakes that have damaged tens of millions of structures. One earthquake in 2008 resulted in almost 90,000 deaths. Japan, as we all know, is set up so that almost the entire nation is at risk, about, or perhaps close to 50% of the total population. Looking at the overhead opener versus existing products on the market, such as the existing prior art garage door openers, which is a rail type garage door opener, like the overhead opener, which I've entitled Safety Enhanced. And the LiftMaster is a different architecture. And basically this comparison is basically to show for each of these three variations how they score. And you'll notice for the Overdoor Opener, there was a concern right in this row about illumination, which is addressed by having a satellite light fixture attached to the free end of the rail. The only remaining ding against the safety enhanced garage door opener is that at times the AC outlets in garages are provided in such a way that it's easy to wire up something from the center of the garage, and you may require an extension cord to connect the overhead opener to an outlet.